Hello, everybody. Welcome to Snakes and Such podcast, hosted by High Elevation Exotics. My name is Ian Silver, and today we have Dave Palumbo of Palumbo's Pythons and Boas, a retired bodybuilder, bodybuilding champion, I believe as well. We can get into some of that. And the owner of RX Muscle, Species Nutrition, a coach in contest prep. I believe that would be how I introduce you. But yeah, we're going to be talking about snakes today, not bodybuilding, as you can tell by my physique. That is not something I do. But yeah, thanks for being here, Dave. Appreciate it.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's always fun to talk snakes with someone because I'm so used to talking about bodybuilding and nutrition and supplementation and how to put muscle on, how to burn fat, which is relevant to snakes because proper nutrition is important as
Yeah,
well.
true.
But it's good to get onto another, I guess you could say, another realm of other stuff. It's funny because in every industry there's seems to be drama and excitement and crazy people and normal people and fun people, and I just find that they almost like mimic each other. It's like the same type of people are attracted to these niche industries, and
Yeah.
reptile keeping as well as bodybuilding is definitely niche all the way.
Yeah, there's weirdos everywhere. And the reptile world is not one that we lack any weird people.
No.
So I got back into it. I used to I've been keeping reptiles on and off for 20 years. Recently got back into it after a lot of moving around. And I used to work with like Ty Parks.
Oh,
Back,
very
back
cool.
in
20
back,
minutes.
yeah, back in the day, he sent me a Philippine sailfin dragon, some
Nice.
rhino iguanas. This was a long time ago. But I got back into things and I quickly realized there's still drama.
Yes.
I was like, ooh, this is going to be fun getting back into it. And here we are again. But
Where are you living now?
I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona.
Oh, okay. So is Arizona pretty laid back with the reptiles and all the laws there?
Yeah, I haven't noticed anything. And especially here in Flagstaff, we're like 7,000 elevation. So people really don't keep much here.
Oh, okay.
There's not much you can keep outdoors because it drops, it's
Sure.
freezing. We get a lot of snow. So
Right.
it doesn't seem like there's many issues here. I mean, not to say that it's going to be avoided. I think it'll eventually start spreading, and that's something we'll get into. But what about a little bit of your background? How'd you get into the industry? How'd you end up from New York to Florida? How'd you end up doing all this stuff?
When I was bodybuilding, I was one of the bigger guys, very popular back in the day. And so what local promoters of bodybuilding competitions would do is they would fly in like celebrity or well-known bodybuilders to do guest appearances. And I did a guest appearance in Cape Coral. I think it was 2002 or something like that. And I came back twice or three times. And I always said to myself, wow, I really like this part of Florida. It's because I had always gone to like Boca and like Fort Lauderdale, Miami. It's where everyone vacations, right? Or Orlando. And it's kind of like a lot of New Yorkers just living in Florida. Whereas I felt like Cape Coral, I was just on the West Coast, it's kind of just north of Naples, was more, I don't know, like people from New England. It was like cooler people. I don't know, more laid back. And I said, man, I could see myself living here. And ironically enough, whatever it was, 10 years later, I met my wife who was from Cape Coral,
Wow.
ironically enough. And so I had brought her up to New York because I had my business up there, my bodybuilding and the supplement business. And then we had a baby, and then you know how that goes because you got the same 6-year-old that I have now.
Yep.
There was no one to help us with the baby, and we had and her mom was down here. So I said, you know what? I can't take this. I'm moving, which was the best thing I ever did because I really, there was no reason to be in New York because most of my income was being, through the internet or selling supplements to different stores around the country. And so
You could live anywhere.
I could live anywhere. And I'm giving New York like state sales tax, and it just was dumb. My property taxes were a fortune up there. So I moved down here, saved a lot of money, and I love the weather. And I'm like, why didn't I do this like 10 years prior to this? I don't know.
Yeah. Crazy. So you've been in Florida for how long now?
I'm going on 7 years. Yeah. So
Cool.
It feels like it was yesterday I moved. I remember having to drive my reptiles down. I didn't have as many as I have now, obviously, but I had rented a 26-foot truck, and my friend Cole, may he rest in peace, not with us anymore, but he helped me. We got up at like 3 a.m. and we packed this truck with all the reptiles, in their tubs. I didn't take anything out. I didn't want to bag up everything because I had too many reptiles. And put him in there, and I think I thought we strapped him down well enough. We just
Oh,
drove 24 hours straight
didn't
from New
strap them
York
down
to Florida.
well enough.
Well, I don't know. When we got to Cape Coral 24 hours later and we opened it up, there were snakes everywhere. They were like crawling. I had an olive python that was crawling on the top, the rafters of the truck. And we found everything but one albino zebra carpet python, which my theory is that the albino olive python ate it. That was my theory, but
It's not a bad theory.
no, yeah, because
It can happen.
Nothing else. If there was an escape route, there would have been more snakes that escaped. But
Crazy.
we made it down here, and it was that was it. And I love the fact that the weather was so nice down here, and that it was conducive to animals. You
Yeah.
can have outdoor enclosures, which is something I'm trying to get into now. And it was just something like that. It was like the next stage of evolution for Dave Palumbo in terms of not just my bodybuilding business, but my reptile business. It enabled me to have my own facility on my property, have more animals, have more room. And that, with more room, you get more inventory, right?
Yeah.
And that's essentially what happened.
When you were in New York, how many were you keeping at that point?
I had an office there in my studio where because we had a warehouse where we would ship my nutritional supplements, species nutrition supplements out of. And I had my own office, and my office, I had gotten so many snakes that my office was no longer my office. I was sitting at the conference table, and the office was basically the snake room, which was funny because it was the room between the main office. You'd had to go through my office to get into our RX Muscle studios, where we were doing all the RX Muscle YouTube programming at the time. And at that time, no one was doing like YouTube stuff like they're doing today.
Yeah.
I'm talking about in like 2010. I mean, we had our own studio. We were doing TV programming in there. And so as the reptiles grew and grew, I'd have guests come in, and they were like, some people were petrified to walk through the office because there were snakes cages everywhere. But
not everybody's a fan.
Yeah, I probably had about maybe, I don't know, 50 snakes, which doesn't sound like a lot compared to what I have now, but it was a lot in that one room,
Yeah, I'm just like I said, getting started. So I only have 10 ball pythons right now, which to some people, they're like, you have 10 ball pythons in your house?
Yeah.
That freaks them out. And you have what, over 700 now?
Yeah. But if you think about it, if you have like 2 litters, you've doubled what you have already,
That's the thing people aren't prepared
That's what
for.
happens.
Yeah, that's what this person locally who's helping me kind of figure everything out, she's mentoring me. She's like, if you want to breed them, you better be ready. When you have 2 gravid females, you could have 20 eggs.
That's right.
Are you ready to feed 20 babies for 4 months before you sell them?
That's right. And boas can have like 30 babies,
And they're live birth.
25 babies.
Boas are live birth?
Live birth.
Yeah, that's crazy. I've never seen it. I think I've seen it on your channel, but not in front of me.
We actually found a litter today. Well, Pablo, the guy who works for me, found one. He calls me up because I was at the doctor because I have this thing on my foot. They had to put me in some kind of like a soft.
Yeah, I saw you had like the knee scooter for a little bit.
Yeah, I still using it. I had surgery on the bottom of my foot. They kind of fused a couple bones there, so it's like a real pain in the ass trying to get back to doing what what I'm doing. So I scooter around a lot, which makes me a lot faster. But anyway, so I'm at the doctor, and Pablo calls me, and he's like, "We got a litter." I said, "What litter?" He's like, and he told me the snake. It was at one. You know how the top cage snakes always get a little neglected. Sometimes I always say out of sight, out of mind. I looked in there last night before I left the snake room, and there was nothing in there. The snake, I knew the female was ready to, have a litter sooner or later, but she was under the hide box, nothing. I guess you could say the dwarf boas, like the Central American boas.
Yep.
When they have a litter of boas, they have almost no liquid that comes out of them, like goo. We call it the goo. Like you have a Colombian boa, there's goo everywhere. It looks like, someone just threw slime into the cage.
Like Alien 3 or something.
Yes. These South American boas, though, have nothing. They have big babies. They don't have huge litters. They probably have like maybe 10 to 15 the most. And most of the time it's like 8 or 9. But they'll be big babies. She had the litter. She was sitting on them. They were right underneath her. And they had never left the hide box. And my Pablo told me it was so dry in there. He goes, you would never know that there was a boa that had a litter in there.
How many did she have?
She had like 9. There was only like one slug, and there was like one that was like dead, like it was like had a big belly. So it was a very healthy litter. She was watching them all. He said she was on top of them, keeping them warm. I don't know if or just guarding them or whatever she was doing. And she that litter could have been there for 3 days for all I know.
And that's the thing. Some people aren't prepared for that.
Right.
You
Right.
know,
So imagine
when they're breeding snakes and it happens, then they're like, oh crap, what do I do now?
now I knew she was, I was
Yeah.
purposely breeding. I knew she was going to go. I wasn't sure exactly the date because
You
sometimes
weren't sure
you
it was
miss
going to be last
ovulation
night.
days. Yeah. But it was just funny that like those babies literally were probably there for 3 days. And that just goes to show you that the parents kind of know what they're doing. It just, you got to watch out because they dried out. Sometimes they get a little desiccated, but that's boa breed. And you better be ready because, I can have a boa litter that's 35, 40 boas. I don't know how much these females are going to deliver, a big Colombian boa. I had one that I thought was going to have 100 babies. This thing was so big. It had like 10 babies. And then I had another one that I thought was like not even gravid, and the thing delivered 30 babies. So that's a lot of mouths to feed, and so you better be prepared, and you better have rack space for it too,
So are you breeding rodents too? Or do you have a source?
No,
yeah, you have a source.
I hate breeding rodents. To me, it would not be worth keeping reptiles if I had to breed the rodents. And believe me, it would save a lot of money, but that's another whole job. Like
and their bites are almost nasty. Well, you have big snakes, but compared to a ball python, I hear people complaining about getting bit by the rodent, and it hurts far worse than the ball python.
The mice are worse than the rats. Don't bite really.
The rats,
The mice are nasty little buggers. They will bite you so hard that little stupid puncture wound will hurt for like 2 weeks afterwards. That's how hard they bite. And I have a guy who delivers to me, and Pablo actually breeds some mice too. So I have like 2 sources, but it's expensive now because just like the cost of everything, the cost of rodents have gone up a lot too.
Yeah, I'm finding out slowly what I'm getting.
You know what I did? I've been feeding every other week now. I did an experiment because I'm a feeder. I like to feed, I want to see my animals grow and everything. So I'm going to try to feed every other week. And except for like the small babies, I'll still give them like pinkies or, fuzzies. But I'm talking about like the majority of the collection.
3,200 gram ball python females.
You know what? They eat better. I haven't noticed any difference in size.
Yeah, they probably have a better feeding response after waiting a little longer.
Yeah, and they assimilate the food better. I think sometimes when you're feeding them, even though they're eating, because whenever a ball python eats, people like, oh, they get so excited because they know ball pythons can be pain in the asses with the food.
Yeah, I got a few of those right now.
Yeah. So, but when you feed and you see them eating, it's like you want to keep feeding them because you think they're going to grow better. I got news for you. They grow just as fast every other week as they grow weekly.
Yeah, and it's
the most amazing thing. Yeah.
Some people feed their big females like large rats, and I'm not sure what you do, but I've heard from a lot of people that sometimes it's better just to stick to like a small rat for everything that's big, versus like overfeeding them large because you're not getting much more from it.
Right.
It's just going to slow them down.
I have females that won't eat rats that they eat like 2 mice and they grow really well in 2 mice. So
they're smart animals. They know what they need to do inside of their body.
That's right. So I've been going to less feeding just because to try to save a little bit of money, because I don't mind spending money on rodents, but it's significantly a lot more now. Like if something goes up 75 cents, a rat, and then you're feeding hundreds of rats every week, it adds up. So it's a big bill. So that was my experiment.
People need to be ready for what. Maybe I'll try giving that a go, because it's getting expensive, and I'm wasting rats because it's every Friday. I'm feeding every Friday. It's what I've been doing, and then I'm like, now I got 4 rats that nobody ate.
Well, that's why you have to have like a boa, a carpet python. They're garbage disposals.
I'm waiting on that.
They'll eat anything.
My wife just yesterday we got a green tree monitor in.
Nice.
From Brian Whitehead, High Desert Herps. And
beautiful.
That money I'm kind of thinking could have been spent on breeder females, but
I know.
It's what
what the funny thing is? Speaking of green tree monitors, I had a pair of blue tree monitors from someone. And I don't think that the person gave me like I don't know if I killed them or if it was my fault. For some reason, they did not thrive. And I had bought a cage from Focus Cube. I bought a big display.
Oh,
cage,
yeah.
And I was going to put them in there, and I had the perfect setup with light, UV, everything. And you know what? The thing took a year to come. I just got it recently. And I had these blue tree monitors a year ago, or maybe 10 months ago. And I feel so bad that these things both died and that they weren't eating. I don't know what the problem was. I talked to a million people. I had them in a
weren't doing anything wrong.
No, I had them in a 6-foot vision cage. They were not babies. They were like, maybe that's what it is. Sometimes when you buy adults, adapt
Were
well.
they
I don't
wild
know.
caught or captive bred?
I believe they were wild caught, but they
So
were
it could have
like,
been parasites or anything like
I
that.
think they had been capped. I think they had been in captivity for a very long time, though, according to the person. But
Yeah.
you never know if you get the right story or not.
No, you never know. Yeah, you never know. I've noticed that when we were looking for one, there's a lot of websites where I think they're just fake websites
Oh,
because
really?
they're selling green tree monitors for $700, and I'm like, yeah,
No
that's
way. Yeah, no way.
we
So
paid over two.
that's about right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and they could be so much more than that. But they're so beautiful. I mean, I could definitely
Yeah.
see. What are you keeping him in?
Right now we're gonna build an enclosure. Right now he's a baby.
Oh, okay.
Like
You got him in a small cage. Yeah,
he's in a 40-gallon breeder,
gotcha.
asking spot of 120, 125,
Mhm.
humidity, 80 ambient. I mean, we just got him yesterday. He's kind of pissed off right now.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We're gonna let him do his thing, but
The sad part was that these things were eating. They were like letting me pet them. They were coming out, so they were definitely handled. It's a shame that but you know what? I blame myself because I didn't know what I was doing. I bought them because I thought it was cool. I wanted to get this display cage, and I tried to do as much research as possible. But you know what? That's not. I'm a
well,
snake.
it goes to
guy. I
show
don't know.
somebody even like you who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
Things happen, and also, a lot of people out there don't know what they're doing, and they buy things because they want it to look cool.
Right.
Like the tegus, you see a lot of stuff, and that's
Sure.
something we can get into because you were saying, we'll go backtrack a little bit. You were saying that Florida is like the perfect environment for reptiles. That's
Right.
also a problem.
Yeah.
That's something that we're dealing with right now. We can kind of go into that.
Sure,
Like
let's
the
do it.
tegus, the tegus, it's a perfect place for tegus. So when something gets too big, somebody can't handle it. What do?
It's funny because I don't know why people would let something go in their backyard because you can sell reptiles anyway. People
Yeah.
love reptiles.
Craigslist.
I mean, there's no back in the 90s when there was no internet, really, essentially. I mean, I could understand if the pet store wouldn't take it, maybe people would say, well, what am I going to do with this thing? I don't know what to do with it. Nowadays, with websites, there's so many people looking for free animals.
Yeah.
Or animals that they'll pay, like $100 for. Oh my God, you can give me a tegu for $100. Yeah, absolutely. Come pick it up. So I don't even know if people are released. I think that's like BS.
Kind of a myth.
I think back in the day, there was some animals that got escaped and maybe some people did some stupid stuff. And now we have breeding populations here in Florida of these things, and there's nothing they can do about it. And they think that by restricting people from having them as pets or restricting breeders from having them, that they're going to solve the problem. It's not going to solve the problem. The problem was solved already. They had regulations in place. They had class 3 permits in place.
Yeah.
They have class 3 conditional species permits for the animals that are potentially could be,
to show that you're serious about taking care of them.
They had to come and inspect my facility. I have to provide applications every year. I mean, they knew who had what. It's so stupid to ban stuff because then you create a
black market.
A black market of unscrupulous people who don't give a shit about the animals. They just want to make money. And they're the ones who have terrible caging and things get out and they're selling it to people that are irresponsible. They're not selling it to me because I'm not going to keep something that's illegal because I have a legitimate breeding. You're selling it to people like kids who want to have pets and they're buying them illegal. I mean, you're doing exactly what would happen with the drug industry with narcotics. You don't want to create a black market here. You had a control system in place. Keep it in place. Plus, you can justify anything living outdoor in Florida. I mean, my dog could live outside in Florida and start breeding. My cat, certainly. This cat's
well, then your dog is an invasive species.
Well, that's what they want to do.
Yeah.
Pretty soon they'll be able to say they'll ban every animal here because everything can live outside. I mean,
it's not just
ridiculous.
reptiles that you guys have that are invasive. You got birds, insects.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Do you know they want to ban neon tetras? I don't know if you know anything about tropical fish.
That's a fish, yeah, a little one.
It's big. It's like this big. They're like you buy them 100 at a time to put in a fish tank. I mean, what is a neon tetra going to do? If I put those in my canal in my backyard, they're going to get eaten.
Yeah,
you know what?
They're prey.
And the problem is also that you go in my backyard canal and there's Oscars in there, which are South American cichlids. They shouldn't be in there. Obviously, someone released them. Right? There's nothing they could do about this stuff. People have animals. If they're going to be irresponsible, they're going to be irresponsible. But I would have to guess that 99.9% of the animal keepers are not irresponsible.
Yeah.
You can't ban an industry because there's one or two people that are doing things that are silly. That's
especially
not
in Florida.
cool.
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry.
It's crazy. I mean, and I told the story on a video. You probably saw the video.
Yeah.
I had gone and done a news, like a fitness segment on Wink News here in Cape Coral, Fort Myers. And when I was in there, just ironically, at the time, Rick Scott, who was the governor, he's now a senator in Florida here. He was in there doing some kind of an interview, and he came up to me, he saw me, he's like, "Hey, nice to meet you," being the governor that he was. And I'm like, "Oh, nice to meet you. That was very nice of you. Oh, what do you do for a living?" "I own a supplement company. I breed reptiles." "Oh, that's interesting. We really love our business owners down here. We support them. There's no state sales tax. You should really consider moving here." "You know what? I'll think about it." And you know what? It was one of the things that came into my head when I was considering, moving my operation here.
Yeah. Better opportunity to make money and pay the government
Yeah.
less.
And I believe that Florida always has supported its businesses. And Governor DeSantis down here, he's the guy that's like F you to the rest of the
Oh yeah.
nation.
I love it.
It's great. This guy is awesome. I don't know why he hasn't interceded and say, "Wait a minute. I didn't know that you guys are going to shut down all the business here. I don't want my businesses being shut down." I mean, he didn't even close anything during COVID here because he didn't want the businesses going out. So he's a governor for the people, for the businesses, for the small business owners. I hope he intercedes here, really, because there's some kind of egomaniacal person who's behind this.
And well, they're typically rich, uneducated people.
They're being led by these animal rights people that have no idea. They don't want any animals to be kept as pets at all.
Yeah.
And they're lunatics. But we live in this fringe society now where let's cancel everyone. I mean, that's the fringe people are the ones running everything. They're getting all these politicians, they're getting everyone all juiced up and afraid to actually challenge them. For God forbid that we say something that's politically incorrect.
Yeah.
These people want to shut everyone down, So, and that's who they're listening to. They're not listening to reason or science or
they're not listening to the people who are keeping these reptiles, who have been doing it for 30 years. They don't care what you have to say, no matter how you house them.
Right. They're listening to lunatics, basically.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're too smart. These guys are too smart for that. I'm telling you, eventually it's going to come to light when DeSantis looks at what's going on and sees the bigger picture. He's going to say, what the hell are we doing here? This is nuts. This is like a huge industry in this state. We got to regulate it, because we don't want things getting out of control.
Well, just like you said with the drug war, it's like I don't smoke anymore. I used to, and I don't think anybody even sells weed on the streets anymore.
No, because you can get it legally.
Yeah, you don't have to. You can go to a store and get it, and it's taxed.
Right.
It just makes sense to do things like that. Whether or not you smoke or not, you can agree it's probably better than having people selling weed in the alley outside your house.
Look, I've been saying for years, in bodybuilders use anabolic steroids. Everyone knows it. Okay, there's nothing to hide about that. And if you made it legal, if you were able to go to your doctor and get a prescription so that you didn't have to go underground and get all these homemade brews, and the doctors were regulating you with blood work and watching what you were doing, people would use less of them. They would use pharmaceutical grade stuff so no one's going to get infections or anything's going to happen to them. And you know what? People would be healthier because of it. And there'd be no crime. There would be no steroid arrests because people would be doing it legally. Now, if you want to ban it in pro football and basketball and these other baseball, that's great. If you play those sports, you can't get it. Sorry, buddy. That's illegal in that sport. But if you want to have bigger biceps or feel like you have more energy, then that should be your option, to go to the doctor and get a legal prescription for it. Like a woman wants bigger boobs, she goes and gets a breast augmentation. So
it's true.
Every time they ban something, they create more chaos. Basically, they don't create more order.
Yeah, and then that's what we're not going to get into names, but there's been a lot of, that's where the drama comes in. We don't have to mention who, but there's things that are happening. People saying, there's this misinformation, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm sure I'll have somebody on who has a different view than you. And that's what I'm here to do.
I'd love to debate them. Because you know what? And you know what? I know there's a lot of our reptile keepers out there blaming, I'm not going to mention who, but blaming people who are doing sensationalistic, kind of like risky stuff on
of course. There's everybody, there's going to be that in the industry.
I don't think those people are hurting us. I think what they're doing is the lunatic fringe is you are using those people against us. Yep. But you know what?
Well, think about Steve Irwin. I bet he would have been canceled.
Of course he would have. Those are just showmen. I wouldn't do that myself. I'm not going to free handle, venomous animals and do dangerous stuff. But if that's what they want to do,
it's their right.
Then so be it. Let him do it. If he wants to die from getting bit by a king cobra, then that's his choice. but that doesn't mean that the rest of the industry is doing stupid stuff like that.
Yeah,
So don't use that. That's a really poor argument against us. Hey, look at this guy. This is why we have to ban animals. No, that's not why you have to ban it.
But the general public sees that, and then, like you said, the fringe group has it as ammunition. So people who don't understand reptiles, they're like, oh, this is what all of those crazy reptile keepers do.
Right. Of course, but we also shouldn't have to hide away just so that we can keep our animals like, shh.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you feel like you're doing something wrong. It's like, I have snakes. Oh, that. I'm a bad person. Like, why should I feel like that? Why can't I do what I love to do? And if I'm doing it in a responsible manner and I'm licensed by Florida and regulated by them, then I should feel free to do what I got to do and not have to worry about people like, snubbing me or saying I can't do that or taking away my rights to do the things that I love. And so, it's not like we're robbing banks, at night, you and I, to fund our animals,
Yeah, not at all.
That's not happening,
I'm just trying to figure out what the next step is. How do we fight this? Obviously, like, I don't think there's anything you can do unless you're in Florida, because it's mainly affecting Florida. That's why I wanted to talk to you.
Yeah.
I don't
but it
think
could
you
go
can
to
even,
other states. It can go to other states.
So I think people, even if you don't live in Florida, you should be talking about it, posting about it, whether or not you support USARK. I do. Yeah. I do. But whether or not you do, I think it's good to find out what the real information is, because there's misinformation everywhere,
I think Martin Luther King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So you cannot allow Florida to ban animals and have a whitelist where they say, oh, you can only have this. Because you know what? These other states will say, you know what? That's a smart move. If they did that, we'll do it too. And before you know it, you won't be able to keep anything. And and then you're going to have a huge black market for animals here. And this is going to get really, really ugly. I don't know why these legislators would want this to happen. I don't even know why. These are smart people. How they can't see what's going on or what would happen is almost like, it almost seems like someone's paying someone off type of thing. And I think it's all goes back to this. They're afraid they're going to be canceled. So they don't want to do anything that's politically incorrect.
Yep.
And which I say DeSantis is never worried about that. So why would he worry about these animal rights people? He should just tell them, you know what, sit down. He said it to
he did it with everybody else.
Well, he said it to the best thing that he ever did was, you remember when they were allowing these women to the transgender men to compete in the women's women's divisions, and they were beating all the women and then they're eclipsing all the records. He's like, as far as I'm concerned, the biological woman who won that swim race, who was second to that swim race, is the winner.
Yeah.
And he went, and that's a huge statement to make as a legislator.
And I agree. We're living in clown world.
Yeah. And luckily the swimming organization agreed. Now you can't, they banned it. They did away with that. But he had the audacity. I mean, he had the balls to stand up to those people. Thank God.
I think he'll come around.
Yeah, I think he's going to be our savior, basically. I really do. I think DeSantis is going to be the guy to step in there and say, no, we're not doing this. Yeah. You've gone far enough. You've banned a few species. You don't have Burmese pythons allowed anymore.
We can understand the Burmese pythons. Those things are
leave these guys alone. Yeah.
And it makes me sad seeing those. That big one they just caught, it was like 18 feet, 215 pounds, 123 eggs. That should have been in a museum or a zoo. I don't know why you kill it. Put it somewhere.
Well, yeah, I mean, you could do that. But you know what it is, though? Let's put Burmese pythons now in the same category as deer. Okay. There's deer season, right? Because there's too many deer. So you got to shoot some of the deer so that they don't overpopulate. And then there's not the deer season. Well, I don't care. These berms are wild. If you want to put out a season hunting these things, then people are going to use them and they're going to pay people. And hunt. There's plenty of hunters in Florida. They love to hunt. Let them hunt the Burmese pythons. And you know what? The truth is, I'm a snake lover, but these things are invasive. They're wild. In the wild, we're not going to wipe them all out, never. So if you want to keep the population culled back a little bit, I don't have a problem with that. And you know what? I have to say, look, I don't have any bad things to say about Florida Fish and Wildlife because I've had only good experiences with them. There might be some people in there that are being motivated by, like we said, fringe groups. But I have a class 3. I have a permit to keep Burmese pythons and anacondas. I have 1 anaconda, 6 berms. On a permit, I can't breed them, but I have them for display, educational purposes, and I've gotten my permit, renewed. And that's the way it should be because they're regulated, they're pit tagged, they're.
So even if people wanted to keep them, it could be okay a certain amount not breeding with a permit. You think that would be okay now?
No, not for the other animals. I think I understand the berm issue, and really anacondas really shouldn't be on it, but whatever the case.
Yeah,
you can't start doing that for
ball pythons.
no, because there's a business involved in breeding them and selling them, and then the rodent business that goes along with that, and then the food business that goes along with feeding the rodents. So you'll kill it. You'll destroy the business. You cannot do that. But the point I'm making is that, all right, we gave you the big invasive stuff. You know what I mean? The truth of the matter is that everything could live in this state, especially in the South.
That's why people move there.
Wild. Yeah. No, I'm saying there's a boa population in Miami. I don't know if there's any ball pythons out there, but I wouldn't be surprised if the berms can live there. Why not the ball pythons? I mean, and I'm sure, there's other snakes that can get out too that probably would survive there too. But that doesn't mean you cannot ban every single animal, because hamsters can live out in the wild. All the tropical fish, like we mentioned, can live out in the wild.
Birds.
Their dogs and cats can. I mean, now they're selling, people have pet skunks and ferrets. I'm sure they could probably live out there too. I mean, what are you going to do? You're going to tell people they can't have any animals anymore? I mean, it's not thought. It was not well thought through.
No.
Okay?
But that's how these things start. And eventually people start catching on. And there's a lot of backlash,
Yeah.
So I mean, we've seen it with the whole.
Sign the permit. I said,
a
petition, sign the petition. Everyone's got to sign the petition
Yeah.
so that these
I'll put the link for
legislators
that.
know that there are people that are not happy about this. And you know what? If we can get 100,000 signatures, imagine 100,000 signatures on that petition.
Yeah.
These legislators would be like, we're not banning these. That's a lot of votes,
Yeah. I agree. I'll put the link for that in the description.
Yeah, please.
And I guess for some reason, I don't know why, but my Zoom is telling me I only have 4 minutes left.
Good, because I have to pick up my kids from school.
Perfect. Yeah. So any final thoughts or anything that people can do besides sign that? I mean, I think they can call their local legislators too and all that, right? I think I just lost your audio. We'll try one time. Nope, you're not there, but we'll just wrap it up. Once you get your audio back on, we can just wrap it up.
I don't know. I should be.
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was talking to Kevin McCurley.
Final words.
Okay. I was talking to Kevin McCurley on the phone, and Kevin from Nerd, and he basically said, Dave, you know what? I said, Kevin, what can I do? Just what you're asking. He said, get out there, make videos, talk about it, get people to sign the petition, but talk about it. If there's a lot of talk on social media about it, these legislators will see this, and that's how we will bring awareness to it.
Yeah.
It's not donate money, definitely to USARK Florida, which is separate from USARK, by the way. Donate money, sure, whatever you can give, but talk about it, put it out there, express your disdain, but also
people.
do it in a sophisticated manner too.
Yeah, because a lot of people are getting a little pissed off, and rightfully so, but you're not going to get your point across if you're.
I'm not mad. I want people to know that this is a silly, it's not well thought out. This is not the solution that they're really looking for. They don't know what the solution is, but the solution is that they had the solution already. They regulated it. They had permits.
Yep.
Keep doing that.
Cool. Well, Dave, we'll probably do a part 2 where we can talk more about snakes and about, what projects you're working on and what you have coming up. But make sure you guys follow Dave Palumbo, Palumbo's Pythons on Instagram.
Yep.
Yes. And then Muscle Serpents University on YouTube. You've been uploading stuff like almost every day. It's great content. I love it. So we really appreciate you in the industry, and thanks for your time. We'll talk soon, and God bless.
Thank you.